Ellen White's Night of Prayer. The midnight hour of revelation. The question is this: have you ever really prayed? I'm not talking about that quick prayer before bed, or the little blessing before the pizza. I'm talking about that moment when you are exhausted. The weight of work, family stress, doubts about the future, it all piles up and you find yourself there on your knees or maybe just sitting on the edge of the bed thinking, God, if you even exist, if you care, I need a sign. I need strength. You feel weak. You feel like your prayers don't get past the ceiling. You feel like it's just you fighting the world. Man, I've been exactly in that place. And most religious people I know have been too. It's the silent crisis of faith, the feeling that you're giving it your all, but the tank is empty. You feel like a lonely worker in a vast, draining field. If that's your reality, if you feel overwhelmed by the weight of your own faith and purpose, this video is your compass. My name is Nick, and I spend too much time thinking about how faith truly works under pressure. Many of us were taught that prayer is a discipline. You do it, you check the box. But today's story is not about discipline. It's about a moment of total exhaustion that turned into one of the greatest revelations about education and purpose in American religious history. If you are someone who feels like your faith is more burdensome than uplifting, who feels called to do something great but lacks the strength to start, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And leave a like if this video helps you transform your moment of exhaustion into a moment of clarity. Today we're going to uncover a silent night in 1867. The night Ellen White, one of the most influential figures in Adventism, but at that moment just an overwhelmed woman, had a midnight encounter that would forever change how we understand health, education, and service. Here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just a story about a vision. It's a story about the psychological and spiritual price of having a calling, and how crisis prayer is the catalyst for true strength. To understand what happened that night, we need to understand Ellen White's mental and spiritual state in 1867. The Adventist Church was growing, and that's good, right? Wrong. Growth brings growing pains. Imagine the pressure. Internal conflicts, people fighting over doctrine, over leadership. Sickness. Church workers, including her husband, James White, were constantly ill. Medicine at the time was terrible. Personal exhaustion. Ellen herself was worn out from constant travel. She was in her late 40s, doing work that would require an entire team today. Look, the biggest mistake we make in faith is thinking that people of great faith like Ellen White operate in a state of spiritual invincibility. We put them on a pedestal and think, they never doubt, they never get tired. This is where it gets really interesting. Authentic faith is not the absence of tiredness. It is persistent action in the presence of tiredness. On a silent night in 1867, the moon was low over the small house. Everyone was sleeping. But Ellen couldn't. The Bible says in Proverbs that hope deferred makes the heart sick. Her heart was heavy, weighed down by the burden of God's work. Think about your life right now. You have an important project at work, but you have a cold that won't go away. You have to take care of the kids, but you haven't slept in 3 nights. This fatigue is not a spiritual impediment. It is an invitation. It's when you are weakest that you stop relying on your own strength. That's what crisis prayer is all about. She didn't go to bed. She didn't pick up a book. She grabbed a shawl. And she knelt down next to a wooden chair under the faint light of a candle. Her prayer started like any of ours. Formal. Lord, your work is great and your servant is weak. Teach me, strengthen me, show me your will. But this is where prayer stops being a list of requests and becomes a connection. Hours passed. The faint creaking of the wood, the distant song of night birds. First the weeping. The emotional release. She is unloading the burden. Then the silence. Fewer words. More communion. Her heart being lifted. Now you might be thinking, Nick, I'm not a prophet. I don't have visions. And that's a fair point. But her psychological shift is universal. She stopped trying to solve the church's problems and started surrendering to the problem solver. It's like an engineer trying to fix a complex circuit with his bare hands. He gets tired, gets frustrated until he finally steps back, goes to the control room and hits the reboot button. The moment of revelation came at midnight, at the lowest point of human exhaustion and the highest point of spiritual surrender. The air grew warm. A soft light, which did not come from earth, but from the celestial presence, filled the room. Here's what most people don't realize about revelation. It's not given when we are distracted. It is given when we are surrendered. When our strength fails, God's strength has room to operate. In that light, Ellen saw a vast golden field ready for harvest. The field is the world. The harvest is the work. And the workers are us. She saw the harsh reality. Some workers fainted from exhaustion, the burnout. Others worked with zeal, but without unity, the internal church conflict. And the voice, calm and powerful, spoke the fundamental principle of effective faith life. The harvest is great, but the laborers need to be purified. Teach them humility. Teach them to pray. Teach them that strength is not in numbers but in faith. This is the first revelation. The solution to the crisis of labor is not more work. It is more purification, more prayer, and more humility. You don't need more hours in the day, you need more focus on purpose. It's like a gardener who has a shiny garden tool, but it's rusty and dull. He works twice as hard, gets twice as tired, but the work is poor. The voice says, stop digging. Sharpen the tool. Take care of the tool. The tool is us. The vision didn't stop at the field. It became God's blueprint for the future. Ellen saw homes where the Word was studied. She saw schools that didn't just teach the Bible and grammar, but that trained the youth in body and mind, practical education, farming, health, ethics. She saw hospitals where healing was inseparable from prayer and compassion. In essence, the message Ellen received at midnight was not, keep doing what you're doing but faster. It was, change the way you prepare your people. Education is not just for the mind. If you are exhausted, body, your prayer is weak, spirit, and your study is unfocused, mind. Strength lies in harmony. Service is not just about preaching. It's about teaching people to cook properly, to cultivate the land, to live in unity. Health is part of the gospel. This is where it gets really interesting. Her vision was for a worldwide work, far beyond anything the small growing church had ever imagined. The voice said, this is the work that will come. Fear not the path. I will be with you until the end. When the light disappeared, Ellen was still there. The candle had gone out. Dawn was beginning to break. Her body was weak, but her spirit was renewed and flooded with purpose. She didn't get up and say, I am healed of all my tiredness. She got up and said, I have a clear purpose. Fatigue becomes bearable when the purpose is visible. That morning she didn't waste time. She wrote for hours, recording every detail. The notes from that night became the foundation for her greatest writings on unity, education, and health reform. The story is not just about what God did for Ellen White. It's about what her prayer of surrender did for the world. Her inner struggle, the tiredness, the burden, became a public blessing. Years later, reflecting on that night, she summarized the power of crisis prayer. Prayer is the key in the hand of faith to unlock heaven's treasures. No darkness is so dense that the light of God cannot penetrate it. For you, who feel overwhelmed, who feel like your faith is heavier than it should be, what can we take away from Ellen White's night of prayer at midnight? First, do not fear your weakness. Your burnout is not a character flaw. It is a sign that you need to change your source of strength. Second, stop focusing on doing more. Focus on sharpening the tool. You need clear purpose before you need speed. What would you do if you knew God was willing to give you the complete blueprint, but you had to be completely surrendered to receive it? Third, true divine strength is revealed not on stages, but in the silent surrender of a faithful heart. I'm not asking you to have a vision. I'm asking you to have a moment of midnight surrender. Find your moment of silence, where you stop fighting the darkness and allow the celestial light to warm the air of your heart. Your tiredness is your invitation. Action. Take 5 minutes today. Not to ask for anything, but to repeat her prayer, Lord, your work is great and your servant is weak. Teach me, strengthen me, show me your will. Leave a comment below telling me, what is the burden you are going to release this week? And if this video helped you see your faith in a new light, subscribe, share it with someone who is overwhelmed, and tell me more about your faith.